25 AVOD titles totaling over 2,000 hours on the platform.
Mm.
Tubi will launch three brand new curated fast channels: WBTV Keeping It Real, WBTV Watch List, and WBTV All Together, which feature Warner Brother award-winning Warner Brother content. So it looks
Okay.
like the deal was for Warner Brother to put
Content on Tubi.
content on Tubi.
Makes sense.
Ooh, child. Good
You know what?
morning. Am I blurry?
Nah, you're not really blurry. Um, I'm zoomed in a lot on you, but there's not much I can do
Okay,
about
I'm
that.
blurry.
You're good.
Yeah, I'm
You
blurry
moved the
on
camera.
yep. That's right. No, yep, perfect.
You're good.
When you clicked me on, my screen went blurry, so it made me think that I may have
Oh,
been blurry.
okay.
Once we logged in, that's interesting. But I was
Could
clear
be
before
the
that.
internet
Good.
thing.
Yeah.
Uh,
But it Yeah, but it only changed when I logged in. So I mean when you tapped us in. Good morning, everyone.
good morning.
Looks
Good
like
morning.
King
Hey, let's go ahead.
Charles is having his coronation today.
I ain't about that stuff.
If anybody cares.
You know who cares about that stuff. All right, let's do this. Let's get on in. Let's start it off the right way. And hey, welcome to the Black Filmmakers Lounge Saturday morning indie industry shop talk. I'm your host, Michael Melvin, my co-host, Tamara TK Henderson. The Black Filmmakers Lounge is where independent filmmakers, whether novelists or professionals, come together to gain insight and perspective through education, information, networking, and to discuss industry best practices that will advance the Black independent film community. Once again, welcome to joining us the Saturday morning indie industry shop talk. That's what we do. How we do. How are
What's
you?
up?
We bringing it. Hey, TK, it's been a minute. Last week, you guys saw us with Jacoby, or saw me
Yes.
with Jacoby. TK was hard on the grind, hard working, but she's working today too. So, um, but she chimed in from work.
What's up,
So,
everybody? I missed you guys. So great. So you and Jacoby had a great show.
yeah, a lot of people were chiming in. Whenever you start talking about equipment, that tends
Ooh,
to um, get people motivated. So,
good.
um,
It gets some people motivated because I was like, equipment talk. Ooh,
although it
script
would have been
talk.
good to have you on because then you
Yeah.
could ask questions. You could, because Jacoby and I just get to talking because we are equipment people.
hmm
So,
But I'm pretty sure it flowed well with you guys, just talking what you know and the knowledge. So I
oh
know
yeah.
people learned a lot last week.
Well, we hope so. We hope y'all learned something. Let us know if you did. um,
Yes, well, I did watch something this week. I
what
did finally
did you
watch the
watch?
first episode of Bel Air. I was going to watch a couple of more episodes, but then on the phone call, that was like 2 hours. But I was
Okay.
like, dang, that would have been two more episodes. So I was excited to finally start watching Bel Air. And
Mhm.
so I'm ready to tap into some more episodes this week. And the young lady I'm working for right now, she, so she has had it on Martin for the last 2 weeks, been binge watching all the episodes.
Oh,
So, but interesting enough, with the Martin episodes, they still stand the test of time. And I did a consultation one time for a guy who did a pilot. And I said, what did you base the pilot off of? And he was like, Two Broke Girls. And I'm like, and I know I've said this before on the show, why would we not? This is just me. Why would
hmm
we not, if you're doing a sitcom, why wouldn't you base it on a show that has stood the test of time, that we're watching reruns a million times over, and they're still standing the test of time. That's what, that's
So
just
what do you
my
mean?
opinion of it. Like Two Broke Girls. Who
Hmm.
are we watching more episodes of Two Broke Girls or Sanford and Son or the Jeffersons or Mama's Family?
But you're
Or
talking about us, right? But because Two Broke Girls was very popular amongst very other communities,
mm-hmm.
so we got
But
to be careful because it's just like Girlfriends was popular, um
mm-hmm.
and Living Single is popular, but outside of our community, Friends was popular, right?
So that would be different than Two Broke Girls because Friends is on syndication.
So I
I
think
mean,
Two Broke
Friends,
Girls is too.
Two Broke Girls,
Two Broke Girls comes on Paramount
si-
and
it's on
something
Hulu.
else. Hulu.
63% on Rotten Tomatoes, 6.6, and that's a other people's show. So for them to get 63% on Rotten Tomatoes, that's interesting.
Yeah. Good morning, Leonard. How you doing, brother?
Hey,
Um,
Leonard.
yeah, it's kind of like you. The one thing we definitely always got to be careful of is how many shows are very popular within our community,
True.
and not necessarily other communities. And yet, some of our shows are popular within other communities as well as ours. We have to understand those
Hmm.
dynamics, right? Like
This
if
is
you think
true.
about the Cosby Show, right? I mean, at once he was America's dad, right? So that's how popular the Cosby Show was in America on
Hmm.
Thursday nights, 8 o'clock. Um, Number one show, and then here comes you had that show, and after that was Cheers to keep the audience watching, right? To keep people chimed in to
Hmm.
Cheers. Cheers is good, but it
Cheers is
it
good.
wasn't at the level of Cosby Show. And then came a different world, and different world was put in between Cosby Show and Cheers, and Cheers kept people watching. Then they had another show, I think it was Wings, that came on after Cheers.
Hmm.
So it they kind of built up the audience. You put the top show first, and then you
Right.
put the next show, and then because in Different World was second to Cosby until pretty much Roseanne came along. But
Oh.
again, Different World was number one amongst a lot of us, and it
Hmm.
funneled a
No,
lot of us into college.
you're exactly right. Because Two
Hmm.
Broke Girls, they did 6 seasons.
Right, and that's probably I think 6 seasons is probably a little bit above average when you think about it, because I think the average stay, with the exceptions of things like The Simpsons and Family Guy, the cartoon stuff. I mean, Martin lasted a pretty good number of seasons. Jamie Foxx wasn't that many. It was a few seasons. And, average sitcoms were staying longer than 2 3 years. So it was rare when you have a Cheers, Cosby Show,
Hmm.
Different World, Fresh
Or
Prince.
Mama's Family. So
Yeah,
Cheers and Mama's Family are actually, they are, Cheers and Mama's Family are other people, all in the family. Those are on the other side as well.
yeah. So like again, but it's also Here's Leonard said Shonda duplicated this with her medical shows, and that show with about the press scandal, and how to get away with murder. Like she took her formula and made it last. Good morning, Yvonne. How you doing today?
Hey,
Thank you for
Yvonne.
joining us. So and yeah, they coined the thing must see TV. But you know what? And then here's the funny thing. So when we were growing up, you had Mama's Family. Everybody watched that,
Hmm.
right? Everybody watched Family Ties. Um, you had certain shows you watch. I remember Carter Country. Um, People watched Dukes of Hazzard until some of us became aware of the General Lee and the Confederate flag.
I
They was
love
like,
Dukes of Hazards.
we used to watch what's that? Columbo and Heart to Heart and the
Heart to Heart.
Jeffersons and
Yes, with
yeah,
Pierce Bronson. I used to watch Heart to Heart.
Oh, Pierce Bronson was Remington
What
Steele,
Remington Steele. Yep.
right? Um,
Yep.
Night Shift, or it was Bruce Willis's first show with Sybil Shepherd. Remember? Um,
And it was a TV show?
yeah, it was. They were like detectives. Um,
Uh-oh.
see, I used to watch all that stuff. I
I
watched television. I could tell you all the Saturday morning cartoons and all the TV shows, pretty much. You know, Moonlighting. There we go. It was Moonlighting. I knew it was
Oh,
something with light in it.
Moonlighting.
It was Moonlighting.
Yes.
So, but we watched those things, and we watched like I remember the basketball show, The White Shadow. We watched Battlestar Galactica. We had our outer space stuff, V. Um, Misfits of Science, A Team. But though, what's funny, those shows, because remember, A Team, nobody got shot. Nobody got shot. They had
Nobody
guns,
got
but
shot. None
nobody
of them
got shot.
died.
Nobody
It
died.
wasn't dramatic. It was just all exciting, but it wasn't really dramatic, if I
Yeah.
remember correctly.
No, yeah, it was exciting. Today it would be cheesy, right? Kids today probably wouldn't even watch that stuff.
He riding
So
around in a pedophile van. Yeah.
but like when you really think about it, the stuff we watched was slightly wholesome. Like it wasn't really over the top as it, because like today's shows you can see it's sexy.
At
You know,
7 o'clock primetime TV.
yeah.
A whole sex scene. Like
So
what?
when she's saying 7 o'clock, that's because she's going off of CT time, Central Standard Time. Eastern Standard Time is 8 o'clock.
Yes. I was that show with I'm gonna tell you the show with Morris Chestnut came out. And it was like a 7 o'clock show and they were literally having sex. I was like, oh,
Yeah, it was. I saw The Americans, or something where they had Russian spies in America, and I saw there was a scene where and I was like, wait, what? What time is it? And I was like, whoa, it's 9 o'clock. What's going on? But I remember cussing Hooperman. I remember watching Hooperman with John Ritter, and you heard some profanity. You heard
mm,
the B word, because it's a family show today, always. But I heard the B word in The Simpsons, and they're like, "But that's what she is. She's a female dog," And it was like, as time progressed, the FCC opened up and allowed things to happen. I mean, you gotta look at what's on TV today. We had wholesome shows, but you gotta remember, Martin was one of those shows that would push some envelopes, or push, you know. I remember when Sinbad had a show when Ray J was on it. And he adopted the two kids, a little girl, and Ray J was the boy, the brother. I remember Robert Towson's show, The Parenthood. We had a lot of positive content, a lot of positive shows on television, but they also sometimes I think we don't mind pushing the envelope to an extent. We need a thriller to be a thriller. Like when you go back to look at Matlock, but you look at Law and Order, they're two different types of shows, but they're both about lawyers and solving crimes, right? Heart to Heart was a very clean show. But I'll tell you this, go back and watch Buck Rogers 20 with Gil Gerard, and Buck Rogers is a pimp. like that was a very that told a lot about the 80s and sexualization of women. Like, yo, the women, come on, the princess was wearing a bikini and a cape. Let's be real. In outer space. So,
wow.
what we
He
watched.
said Buck Rogers was a pimp.
He was, man. There was episodes he was always getting with a girl, man. So, and he had a shiny suit all the time. Like, and he was trying to teach him how to disco, because that's when disco music was always in the shows and stuff. And you had Twiggy, like, bitty, bitty, bitty. You just, you had Michael Knight, Knight Rider. So,
Knight Rider. I used to love Knight Rider.
but
Kid.
Yeah,
Meet me on the corner.
every kid got that watch. Look, every kid was getting them calculator watches, and like now you can talk into your watch and really call
Okay,
somebody.
now we really do have. Yes.
Star Trek. Everybody was trying to call somebody to call. Now we got cell phones. We look at people and talk to them. You can actually talk to people we on the computer. We talk to people on the street. We be like, listen, I used to have the Amazon box, and you could change it from Alexa to computer. Except you can't watch Star Trek when you do it. Star Trek Generation, because Picard be like, or Riker be like, computer, and my Amazon thing would come on because I wasn't gonna call it Alexa. So it came on, and I used to tell Tiffany, unplug that thing. I can't stand that thing. But then we also Apple House, so you say Sirius and Siri comes on. What? How can I help you?
Oh my goodness.
But TV shows were wholesome. They led away. They were, and maybe that's. I'm not gonna say that's the problem. Maybe that's the balance that's missing, right? But better writing has come out of the complexity of TV
Hmm.
shows.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
we last night I started watching Queen's Gambit.
Hmm.
Have you seen it yet? It's on Netflix. It's about a girl
No.
that plays chess, and she's trying to beat all the chess players. And this takes place in the 50s and 60s. And
Oh, okay.
yeah, and and she was orphaned. And so you have a little diversity because it tells you it's so funny or ironic in the show. There's a scene where she's talking about getting a job. The girl's like, well, I can get a job, and the mom's like, the only teenagers that get a job are black. I was like, wow. But that's again, you know um it's so fascinating.
I'm gonna have to check that out. When you talk about when I seen Queen's Gambit, I seen it as a period piece,
Mhm.
and but it just didn't sound like I didn't even read it. Like it, you know how things you look at, you scroll, it doesn't spark. It either sparks your attention or it doesn't,
Right.
and that necessarily didn't just spark my attention right off. But that is something I would definitely watch. Um,
Yeah.
that particular, yeah, I would watch that.
I mean, it's talking about, think about it, it talks about chess, um, it talks about strategy, but you learn who this person is, and you have to have.
Okay,
Leonard said it was good. Yeah, he's seen it.
okay.
Um, and that's the thing. Like, you see her flaws, and that's what it is. The difference between shows when we were growing up is the heroes were not as flawed in a sense as human beings.
Mm-hmm.
Like, was Michael Knight ever a drug addict?
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying?
No, he was always our hero. He didn't. We didn't see a bad side of him or a
Right.
real side of him. Yep, you're
But
right.
as a kid, when you watch Saved by the Bell, and you remember not Kelly, the tall girl, was taking the caffeine pills to stay awake to study. And when Carlton started taking something, so he could, or had some drugs, so he, oh no, Will was giving drugs, but Carlton took them because Carlton felt pressured. It became
Mm,
real for people because that is what teens and people were going through.
mm-hmm.
And now you had flawed characters, right? Even though they're the good guy, they got to be flawed because who isn't? And then you can see
Right.
yourself because we're all flawed human beings. So I think
Yep.
that's where writing took its toll, was change, right? I mean, what you think?
No, absolutely. Because you're able to, I think over time, like you said, because and I think one of the, like we've seen it over time as it changed,
Mm-hmm.
but when Bel Air came out, when I saw the first episode of Bel Air, I was like, oh, this is real, real. When they were
Mm-hmm.
playing him in West Philly and all the music and I was like, the surroundings. I said, "Oh, this is real, real,"
Mm-hmm.
because it wasn't a sitcom anymore. It really became like, but we still need the lighthearted TV shows as well because we still want to We don't want everything to be real, real. It's so much going on in this world. We do want something that's just wholesome, that's just clean. Let me just
Mm.
watch something good, because it's some movies, some episodes of things or something I'll watch or see on the news, and I'll be like, let me go watch Up, or Waterboy, yeah,
But
because
you,
it keeps that balance for us.
mhm.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, think about the Waltons. I like if you guys, some of the people watching the show know, and my mom suffered a stroke multiple times, um, and she's in a bed, but she watches TV, and there's some that she watches television, but she watches three movies consistently, which is Last Holiday with Queen Latifah,
Hmm.
Jumping the Broom, and the third movie right now slips my mind. But none of those movies are overly negative.
Hmm.
So and she doesn't want you to make, like, if you try to put something on that's too mm-mm, she'll go, mm-mm. What you want to watch?
Hmm.
And you got to put it on. Um, and as I was watching with her, because I had to watch them multiple times, and I brought this on the show before,
Hmm.
um, but looking at Last Holiday multiple times, it's a story of a woman who didn't live her life until she found out she was gonna die. You know, and then actually started living. She tried to play it safe for so long. Um, and sometimes, and what I mean by playing it safe is she had a lot of money saved in the bank. She just wasn't living her dreams. She wasn't pursuing things. She just
Hmm.
worked in the shop for the guy that she saw when she went on a trip. If y'all haven't seen Last Holiday, go watch it. Um, but spoilers. But when you really look at stuff like that, it makes you go, am I living? Am I pursuing me? What am I missing out on because I'm just not living?
Hmm.
And maybe that's the thing with flawed characters, because it's still a wholesome movie and it still addresses a theme that's common to many of us. But there's hope in the film. I remember seeing a movie where somebody dies at the end. I'm like, man, and people don't always want to see that. But Gladiator to me was like, yo, that's hard. He dies at the end. But like, our heroes always made it out,
Hmm.
and
Except for
now,
Kane. Except for Kane.
oh
In
yeah,
Menace
yeah,
Society, he didn't make it. He didn't make it to the new city, to Atlanta.
yeah. But see, but no, I'm just saying. Back in the day, though, we would always cold, man.
Well, I mean, that was a '90s movie.
Right?
That was a '90s movie. So it was still kind of
But
back in the day.
think about it. I mean, Cooley High, Coach East didn't make it, but Preach went on to become a film writer.
See, so something good came out of it.
Hmm. But that's always the saddest scene, man. It's hard to watch it. Cooley High is my movie, but
Yeah.
that's the thing, right? So we're looking at writing today and films today. And speaking of writing today, so let's dive into our main topic. Um, I am going to bring that up.
And I'm gonna go to the other page so I can actually read it from here.
Okay.
Um, so what this is, guys, is what the WGA, as of the first, this is what WGA proposed. I'm not going to read what what the union.
Joa.
I'm not going to read the counter offers and all that stuff. I'm just going to read what the WGA has been proposing, and while as of the status of May 1st, and this is what they were proposing.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have looked at minimal scale, which we showed it a few weeks ago, how the scale looks for the minimums in regards to TV writing and theatrical, and how it changes once a year, and then it's set for 3 years. So what the WGA has proposed is for all minimums, including residual bases, there's an increase of 6%, 5%, and 5%. And like I said, that's on all minimums,
Hmm.
including residuals. For streaming features with a budget of 12 million or more the writers will receive full theatrical terms, including better initial compensation and residuals. Under features also is guaranteed two-step, required two-step if a, if hired for a screenplay for less than 250% of the minimum.
Hmm.
So if it's less than 250%, there's a two-step. So the two-step, it doesn't go into explaining the two-step, but if I was to guess, I would guess the two-step would probably be the upfront money and the money for production.
Or is it that?
Because
Okay, I didn't know if
because
it became weekly pay.
what they not for feature, this is for feature.
Okay.
So in features, what they usually do, and that's why I'm thinking this, is because they usually do like if I sell a script to a studio, it's 250 against 450. That means I get 250,000 up front for it to do it, and then if they make it, I get that additional 200,000. So it's 250 against 450. So I'm wondering if this guaranteed two step is that the same thing. So I have to look more into that. Weekly pay, 50% upon commencement, and remaining 50% to be paid out weekly over the writing period. This applies if the writer is paid less than the 200,
Right.
250% of the minimum. Writers above this threshold have the right to opt in to weekly pay. So that means they won't get lump sums, but they'll spread it out so the writer can actually have something to live off of instead
Hmm.
of waiting, for 6 months or 9 months till the script is actually finished to get the second payment.
There you go. Yeah. So the weekly pay is the second part of the second step, guaranteed second step. That's what
Could
it looks
be.
like.
Could be, yeah. hmm Appendix A, establishing minimums for streaming. Extended television, Appendix A, terms and high budget shows are made for SVOD, including weekly minimums, 13-week guarantee, and residuals based on aggregate.
Yep. So, so streaming video on demand. That's what SVOD means. In case you guys
hmm
don't know.
Good, thank you. Episodic TV. So this is one of the bigger things because they started making these mini rooms.
Hmm.
They started making these mini rooms, but then they would make these mini rooms and they would tell the people to write the episodes. We may or may not use them, but we'll pay you if you use them versus we're going to pay you to write.
Hmm.
So that's one of the biggest things. So pre greenlit rooms, minimal staff of 6 writers, including 4 writer producers. So
This
the
is before it's
post,
greenlit.
mhm,
Hmm.
the pre greenlit rooms. So the post greenlit rooms, 1 writer per episode up to 6 episodes, then 1 additional writer required for 2 episodes after 6 up to max of 12 writers. Example, 8 episodes require 7 writers, including 4 writer producers. 10 episodes require 8 writers, including five writer producers. So they're
Hmm.
trying to. It looks like they're trying to kill these little mini writing rooms they're trying to start.
Yeah, use less people to do more work. So yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. The duration of employment. Pre-greenlit rooms, the minimal staff guaranteed is at least 10 consecutive weeks of work. Post-greenlit rooms, writers on staff must get at least 3 weeks per episode, a max of up to 52 weeks.
Mm.
Half of the minimum staff must be employed through the production, and 1 writer must be employed through post. So they're taking shortcuts everywhere they can in regards to the pay. Like you said, they're cutting everywhere they can. So we use less writers and give them more work, and then we move them in and out. Because one of the things they were saying is that there are writers that have been like, if you've been writing for 10 years, and then all of a sudden a new writer comes in, you guys are getting the same pay.
Hmm.
So that was one of the, I don't know if I sent you that video, Michael, where the TV writers were breaking it down. They were saying some of the stuff down. They were saying how, and they were even saying how with regular TV they would get a $2,300 check. With streaming they would get 700. And one guy said he even got a $23 check.
Mm. I know okay, so streaming has changed the industry because you now
Mm-hmm.
binge watch. Um, let's just take it back. When we were talking about earlier, what we used to watch back in the day, you had about 22 to 28 episodes,
Mm-hmm.
right? That would make a season, and it
Yes.
pretty much run almost the entire year, right?
That
You
would
would have
actually be the
breaks.
first. That would be, wouldn't that be the first? Wasn't it 22 episodes like for the fall season, and then the spring season would have another 22?
No, it would be
It was 22 total?
22 to 28,
Total.
and it
Okay,
would be
okay.
split. Yeah, total. Because you
Mm-hmm.
had off seasons like Christmas. Some shows didn't have shows playing during Christmas as reruns.
Mm-hmm.
People were off. Um, the only people that was on constantly working were talk shows and soap operas. They came on every day.
Mm-hmm.
So they're always working, always filming. Um, but for like episodics back in the day, you could, you would have that fall, then they take a winter break, then they come back for the spring,
Mm-hmm.
and then they're out for the summer. And during the summer, you had reruns that
Right,
would bring you
absolutely.
through the fall.
Mm-hmm.
And then syndication starts to happen. Um, syndication happened much quicker
Mm-hmm.
as time progresses. You wanted film actors to come to television to garner a greater audience. They cost more, so you cut down the number of episodes
Right,
to put the
absolutely.
budget in for to have those actors. So they cut costs somewhere else, which is probably the writing, because they're not going to cut production value totally. Um, so there's different factors that play into that. And
Mm-hmm.
then, I mean, you did have actors like developing web series. I remember Idris Elba was a producer of a web series about
Mm-hmm.
actors that was on YouTube or something for a minute. Um, you had the growth of Grown and Sexy TV, which was
Mm-hmm.
going through YouTube and started their own channel, and there was a lot of web series. Um, so they were short. Their seasons were shorter, which, you know, here what we don't think about, and it's not that it's a problem because it's but in business you look at models that are working that are cost efficient but that get you what you need, right? If I'm spending a million something dollars on 3-4 million on per episode, right? Why don't I spend that much and get Idris Elba to come in for 6 episodes of a show?
Shh, if you spending that much money, you need to put, absolutely, you need
Right.
something that's going to guarantee the money back for sure.
Again, that's how Luther is. If you look at Luther, the first season was like 6 episodes or something like that. The second season was 4 or something. The next season was like 2, and now they got just a 1 hour, not a 1 hour, but one movie on
Mm-hmm.
Netflix now. So the independent filmmakers, kind of created this too. The indies. I mean, you look
Mm-hmm.
at it, Issa Rae, right? Awkward Black Girl on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Then has a show on HBO. They don't have a lot of episodes. I think it's like 8, maybe 10. Power, 10 episodes.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
Bel Air, I
B-
think it was 8
BMF,
episodes.
10 episodes.
Yeah. So your thing is you trying to keep the other thing is the more shows content you pump out, the more you can try to keep people coming back to watch. The same show could get boring to people. Netflix created binge watching. It was Netflix and Hulu. Remember, they
Mm-hmm.
would drop an entire season and people would just binge.
Yep.
You know, so now here's what comes of that. Oh, we've cut costs. It's expensive to make a show after show after show that people can just binge. And I think it was Amazon and Disney that shifted the binging. They went to, and I think Hulu, when Disney got in, showed their partnership with Hulu, with putting them both together, because they were already invested in Hulu. They started, hey, make them come back every week. And you think about it, Disney Plus,
Mm-hmm.
Mandalorian, all the Marvel stuff, one show every week. I think they would open it up with 2 shows to get you hooked, right? And then you got to come back next week, see episode 3, and you got to come back.
That's how
Now they just
Peacock
one.
did with Bel Air. Yeah.
Yeah,
They They did one episode.
Yeah.
They did one episode or two episodes for free, and then you
Mm.
had to join. I think it was one, and then
No,
you
it was
had to
two. They
join.
had a special screening, and they
Uh-huh.
gave you a second
Yep.
episode, and then they said, "Okay, join Peacock." Um,
Yep.
and again, COVID opened the door up for a lot of this too because it affects the feature industry.
And that's probably where, because when you look at this scale, it was what, 20 to 2020 to 2021, 21 to 22, 22 to 23. And when
Mm-hmm.
COVID happened, the money that these streaming sites were making went absolutely crazy, and the writers got nothing for it. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
pretty sure, in regards to the correct compensation for these shows that they've worked hard and wrote, and they didn't get compensated for. So I'm pretty sure when you said that, that's what made me think a lot of these stemmed. But at the bottom of this page, it talks about the TV weeklies.
Mm-hmm.
They're rallying to increase weekly rates of staff writers and story editors, executive story editors by 655.
Mm-hmm.
Establish a new writer producer tier with weekly rate above 25% above SE and ESE.
Okay.
I'd have to look up those. The greenlit room compensation, we're still under TV. Pre-greenlit room weekly services paid at 25% premium. Premium applies whenever writers are hired before a season or a season order, including in between seasons. So this, I believe, is when they were talking about how they're creating those mini rooms to write episodes, and we may or may not use.
Mm-hmm.
Minimums in post-production, NBA
Oh.
weekly minimums during post. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I can go to the next page. Okay.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Sorry, I have it up on my
Good
other
page too.
screen
I got
so
you.
I can see.
I was like, I jumped back.
So this is foreign streaming residuals.
Uh
So
huh.
the they have a schedule where they have an increase. They're asking for an increase. So like they're asking for all of this, like certain things to be applied when the movie is less than 20 million, and the studios took it for less than 1 million.
Mm-hmm.
So like they're like totally off. Like they're not even close on so the forming, because like we said, when COVID shut everything down, we weren't the only ones sitting in house binging.
Right.
Everybody around the world was, that had binging capabilities. Let me put it that way, because not everybody, have the
Mm-hmm.
services. So viewership based streaming residuals, tier fixed. Establish a viewership based residual in addition to the existing fixed residual to reward programs with greater viewership, require transparency regarding program views. So they want to make sure that they even know that they're not lying about the numbers. Because they can easily say, oh, only 50 people watched the show when it was actually 50 million.
Mm-hmm.
So they're asking for transparency as well. Of course, that whole thing was rejected. Um, Ad supported free streaming services. So this is where Tubi comes in too. Um, But what we were looking up earlier, guys, is trying to see if Tubi was actually a WGA signatory,
Right.
because a lot of people are putting their stuff on Tubi, but I'm assuming it's not, because even when you put your stuff on Tubi, if they were a signatory, they would have to pay residuals, because that's what happened with
Not
Netflix.
necessarily for the independent. And here's why I'm saying what we're looking at is if the studio is hiring writers to produce their content. We're not talking about the person like you and I who write a movie and go make the movie with our money. That's a different ball game.
So let me hold on just a second,
Mm-hmm.
because when I looked it up before, Netflix, even if I bought the movie to them, they would still have to, hold on just a second. I'm pulling up the article with the Netflix and the WGA. Hold on.
Okay. Because what I mean is
Because
not that
mhm,
I'm saying that Netflix it's different. Like when we're talking about green lighting, right?
mhm.
Netflix green lights you bring an idea to Netflix. They greenlight it. They're paying you for production and everything. So now you're a writer under Netflix. But let's say you go make the movie and then bring it to Netflix. That's a different ball game.
That's what I was trying to see because Bird Box
A Netflix original.
was Bird Box a Netflix original. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, that's what I wanted to look it up. Because the thing is, when I looked at Netflix, and remember I was saying Netflix don't pay residuals, but I thought that was also if you bought the movie to them because of the. So that's what I was trying to figure out. Okay.
Yeah, so that's
Okay.
where, because even with the cameras, like last week we talked about cameras,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a Netflix camera list. That camera list only applies if you are producing content for Netflix by Netflix. Like they hired your
Mm-hmm.
company, production company, to do something. Those are the cameras you are allowed to use. As an independent, you're not locked into any of that if you are just making your film. Now,
Mm-hmm.
some independents use it as a guideline on what the best tools are to use and utilize, but they are not, you're not locked into that, is what I'm saying.
Gotcha. Okay. So the ad supported free streaming services, high budget programs made for AVOD, get
Mm-hmm.
TV weeklies and script fees and improve residuals. Pension P&H, what they call P&H. Each member of the team gets P&H contributions as if they were writing as an individual. So that's really major. I'm surprised that's not at the well, I guess it couldn't be at the top. Now they talk about AI. Regulate the use of artificial intelligence on MBA covered projects. AI can't write or rewrite literary material, can't be used as source material, and MBA covered material can't be used to train Al. A friend of mine was like, I don't understand. She was saying, I don't understand they how AI would be able to write scripts and stuff. They still need people. And I was like, listen, if they putting it up there, I said the stuff that AI can do based off that one video I saw that you sent me, Michael, I was blown away.
Mm-hmm.
Halfway through it, I was blown away. So I was trying to explain to her how advanced this technology is because she was like, well, I don't understand. It's not going to be able to. I was like, it's going to be able to do everything.
So there was and this was years ago. I don't know if you and I sat and watched it online. When we were like, when I pull up stuff, we'd all watch it together or something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there was a short film. I have it. It was on Apple, and the short film was this girl was applying. It was a black girl. She's applying for a job at a motion picture company, and when she's applying, they interviewed her. Part of her interview was to watch the content, and they shared with her what they were doing with the computer, and the
Mm,
computer AI would study. Now this is back in 2016.
mm,
Keep this in mind. This was, and it's probably done in 2015. Let me pull it up just in case. I want to see when this was actually. So, but the point was that the computer was studying the audience, their response.
mm,
And to get people to come back and watch it again, it would re-edit the film. And it was trying to hit all the emotional
mm,
things that would get you to want to come see the movie again and again and again, and to enjoy the film. And I thought, how interesting that is. And yet today we're talking 2023,
mm,
we're talking about AI, right? And we're talking about its impact because AI's job is to study materials, study responses, study what's out there, and use it to create materials. You got to tell it what to do. You got to be more specific, but and it's a trial and error over several times. People like one guy shows it where he turned his head thing into a Disney animation, and then he uses another software to make it talk, and he uses another software AI to write the script, and he says the script, and then the editor does the voice. He takes his voice, put it with the animated image of himself to be a talking head with a Disney animated face. That's all the software, all
Wow.
AI does is study what's already been created
Mm-hmm.
and takes the best out. You're telling AI, hey, this is the best script in the world. These are the top movies. These are what people paid billions of dollars to see. Take this information and create a movie that can generate billions of dollars based on this information. You're teaching it.
Mm-hmm.
So you're it's like, and so you're building an algorithm. Pretty much you're trying to develop a algorithm for any industry that you want artificial intelligence to create for, based
Mm-hmm.
upon studies and the things prior to base an algorithm from. So how can you write a great rap song? You take the greatest rap songs, and you put them in an AI. And then when you say, "Hey, I want to this is a Southern rapper song. This is a New York City rap song. This is a da da da." Now I want da da da. I mean, one guy has a thing where he has Jay-Z rapping on his thing. Darrell said, "At this point, I'm just waiting for Ultron and the Terminator to show up." Like, yeah, I mean, you just really got to think about those things. Like, we're teaching computers to do what we, in as an industry, depending, look at mediocre jobs.
And that's what I was telling her. She was like, kept saying, I don't understand. I said, because we don't understand, we and our limited thinking, we don't understand what this thing can do. That's why I was so blown away when you sent me that video. I'm like, oh crap. Now
Mm.
it makes me, it had to expand my mind. So my friend, when I was trying to explain it to my friend, it was like, it's hard to explain because your mind is limited, because you think, how can a computer write a script? Listen, if it wasn't a problem, it wouldn't be in here. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
If it was not a problem, because they actually say that it cannot, AI cannot write or rewrite literary material, and it can't be like the NBA covered material can't be used to train AI. It is literally saying this stuff because it can be done, and they know it.
So, so look at this, and I'll give you a perspective. When we're talking about AI can't write or rewrite literary material. So let's think about this literary material that is what we call, and I send you guys a list that yearly, the things that are now available for fair use by the Library
Yes.
of Congress. The
Hmm.
copyright's up, it expires. You can take a Shakespearean movie, you can tell AI to take this Shakespearean, let's say Taming of the Shrew, right? That's a timeless classic. Um, Meet a hardcore, cold-hearted woman, or whatever you want to say of Taming of the Shrew, right? And who no man can get. It's hard for any man to get. Now, if you read Shakespeare's Taming of the Shrew, you know that Delivers from Eva uses that theme.
Hmm.
Same thing. But now you can say, I want a thriller using this story. And all you have to do is go in later and rename the characters, right? You can tell I specifically, I want a thriller, a black African American thriller, da 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 da
Wow.
da da da, and really break it down and provide it all the literary information from Taming of the Shrew. It's
They're
legal,
trying to
can't
take our
stop it.
jobs.
Then you go, okay, I want a comedy, African American comedy. Take the same storyline, Taming of the Shrew. Da 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 da. I wanted outer space and futuristic story, Taming of the Shrew. You see what I'm saying? And now
Hmm.
you have X amount of scripts with the genre switched, with the story theme the same base. The dialogue is there. You can have AI modernize the dialogue based upon ethnicity, culture, da da da.
Hmm.
Because you're teaching AI these things already. We're doing it as we are on the internet, whereas we're on computers.
Wow.
We're already teaching AI because that's where Google has an AI. When you're Googling stuff and you're writing stuff and you put it on the internet, it studies what you've put out there, characteristics. So we have to think about those things and how
Hmm.
we can put it to use, right? So now I don't write scripts. Now, Michael Melvin does, but I'm just saying, I'm a person, I don't write scripts. I talk to TK and she goes, this is how much I charge to write scripts. And I go, oh, I can't, because this is the average person. Ugh, I can't afford that. And what do? Oh, AI and cost me $150. Guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go have AI do it. And you learn and you practice doing that and you do all, but and here's the thing. But you still need somebody to read your, like, AI is not perfect, by the way. And you got to be careful because AI pulls from other places, so it can end up plagiarizing, by the way. There's a lot of factors that you don't know yet. But if you know what to look for, you know what to do. Mm-hmm. There's software now, the same plagiarism software now lets you know if it was written by an AI or a person. Right? What are they using to do that? They're using the AI to check if you're plagiarizing. You see, all these things are built on each other. Software is software. The designer uses whatever, I always say, here, this is just a Michael Melvin philosophy. I always say the same people that hack into computers are the same people that sell you the software to protect you from hacking. And in order to make you keep purchasing the software, update the subscription, they create new ways to break into their own stuff or their friends' stuff. They create new viruses. You think about this. A while back, it used to be that people, and Boondocks made a joke of this, that people who were selling the alarm systems were the same people breaking into people's homes. And sometimes the people who came and set up the alarm system in your house came and broke into your house. So I always say, you create the need first. Mm-hmm. You got to create the need, right? And industry creates need, or they find the loophole. You either create the need or you find the loophole. It's one or two things, right? If you think about it right now, what's the cars that are getting stolen? So there's a loophole. Now the companies don't want to fix those problems, but now they created a loophole for the American car companies. Oh, our cars don't get stolen. Come buy a da-da-da. Don't get a Kia. Don't get a, so Hyundai, so, and this is just me. Like I said, this is a Michael Melvin theory. It's not 100% solidified, but go do your research. That's what I always say. Do some research. So AI has been around for a minute and people are building it up. It's to make things, anything about computers, it's always to make things easier for people to use, but we will find a way to use it for whatever. Yep. I tell people I do not type very well. I got two hands, but I don't do the regular typing. But guess what I can do? Because I've written books this way. I will click a button on my computer and start talking
and start talking into the
and I started this when I was earlier in college because I used to buy this software called Dragon Now Speaking. Yes. And I had to read Moby Dick and some other books to it. So to recognize my voice and my diction to be able to type. But I did it. Instead of learning how to really just type fast and type, I figured I circumvented the system. And it still benefits me. It's not like I'm not doing my own stuff with it. But now you can tell AI what you want. I click the AI, write it, talk about da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and do da-da-da-da. And it'll go research the information and put it together for you. And it's to the point AI will edit videos. AI will.
That's that video you sent me. Exactly.
So
it does a lot.
So what are we doing now? That's the same system. So these people this is what you're looking at right here. It affects their bottom line costs because it's taking jobs. You thought just going to a computer at Target, because go to your Target, go to your Walmart, go to your grocery store, and look how many people are actually on working register. The Target where we live, they have a bunch of registers. I don't think I see no more than 2, maybe 3 people on all the registers. But guess what line is filled up? Ring your own stuff. That's self-checkout. And guess what? They don't pay you or coupon you for checking out your own stuff.
It's like give us an incentive, 10% off or 5%,
To
2%,
check,
something.
you're bagging and checking out your own stuff. But
You
before
bagging
somebody
and
else
checking
did
out
it,
your
that's
own
what they were
stuff.
there for. Different game.
Yeah. So the
And
tentative agree. Oh, go ahead, Michael.
go
You
ahead.
still
No,
going?
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So the tentative agreements they have at the bottom: script fees for staff writers. Staff writers receive script fees on top of their weeklies.
Mm-hmm.
Span, increase span cap from 400,000 to 450,000. Basic cable to remain at 375,000. Extend span protection to writers on limited series. Options and exclusivity. Sorry, increase earnings cap from 250,000 to 350,000. Pilot and backup script premium for HBS VOD, 150% pilot premium and 115% backup script premium apply to programs made for HBS VOD.
Mm-hmm.
The P&H diversion, WGA, option to divert 0.5% of negotiated minimums increases to pension and health or health fund.
Mm-hmm.
Broadcast returns allows one additional fee promotional run for a new made broadcast series. And then the cost for all of this at the very bottom, the WGA proposals would gain writers approximately 429 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
And then there the studios, which is AMPTP, I need to look that up, offer is approximately 86 million per year, 48% of which is from the minimal increase. So, of course, when you look at the difference of what they're willing to give and what we're asking for, that is what, a $350,000 gap, a million gap, $350 million gap
Mm-hmm.
between what we're asking um, and what they're offering. Now, the other thing is, Darrell, when you're talking about opening the doors, it will get other writers seen because nobody is putting anything on the desk. So if you have something at the studios already, you know, the chances of your email or your script being found right now are definitely greater. But unfortunately, as non-union writers, we can't make deals. You can make a deal if you don't ever plan on joining the guild.
Yeah, you know what? And so I'll give you a perspective, and this is where you have to decide for yourself, right? Um, because unions depend on certain things. Like I live in Maryland, teachers unions are very important in Maryland. When I lived
Mm-hmm.
in Texas, teachers unions didn't even do half of what they do in Maryland. Okay, teachers are still underpaid in certain areas, Texas, Virginia. They're still extremely underpaid. I'm not saying they're not underpaid in Maryland,
Mm-hmm.
but paid a little bit better. The fight is a fight, but so I'm a person. I'm not really worried about, and this is my mentality. This is me, my mentality. This is why I always gotta say
Mm-hmm.
this. Opinion is me. I'm not thinking, oh, Michael Melvin wants to go work for Fox. Michael Melvin wants to go work for WB. Michael Melvin wants to take a job at BT. I don't. I'm an independent person. I want independence. And there's a reason
Mm-hmm.
I want independence. I believe in ownership. People are making money off of you. They make the most money they can off of you. But yet, you're king. And this is what I'm king and queen. And the reason I'm saying this is this. I take the rap industry. Record labels saw it as a fad. Oh, rap will be gone soon. 2023, rap is still here. You're listening to all these what De La Soul had to go through. You'll listen what has this group had to go through for their contracts, for their music. Prince, what he had to go through.
Mm-hmm.
Ownership. And what rappers who met Prince, DMX, Nas, he said, do you own your catalog? I grew up, dad told me learn about Sam Cooke. Own this stuff. I'm just at a place of, if you own it, you can tell them what you want. When you go to them, like right now, 50 Cent is back and forth with Stars. He's building his own studio, but he does not own power. produced it, made it. Courtney Kemp produced it, made it. They don't own it. Courtney moved on to another job that has nothing to do with power. Nick Cannon's situation happens with MTV. Everybody thinks Wild 'N Out was Nick Cannon's. No, MTV could do what they want. They were trying to hire somebody else who was under Nick's camp at one point to replace him. I am an ownership person because your negotiation power as you build yourself gets harder and harder. Tyler Perry can negotiate a lot better. He owns his stuff. And you're wondering, why is he a billionaire? Boom. He owns his stuff. But yet, a lot of these people, maybe millionaires, maybe whatever, but when you're owned by somebody else, they own you.
Right. But in
But
regards
that's
to
just me.
writing, right. But in regards to writing, so many people, when I tell them how much, I'm charging, and then they're like, oh, that's kind of high. And I'm thinking, do you know how much union writers make? And you know what they tell me? Are
What?
you union?
But you
The
know what?
problem
That's
with
their
writers,
stupidity.
right? But the problem with writers, when we talk about, like, I'm not planning to go work for Fox and all this stuff, but selling scripts to studios and getting my worth, I am. And so unless I'm union, nobody's going to. I've been independent for 16 years.
Right.
So
The
people are still
negotiation is
expecting me to
different.
write scripts. People are going to expect me to write scripts for $5,000 for the rest of my life, because that's too much to them. But as a writer with the union, you have to pay me what I'm worth. So as I'm making negotiations to sell stuff, either whether it's a development deal and I stay on board, or if it's a buyout, I still won't get what I'm supposed to get, only because I'm not part of the union, because
But
they will downplay and not give me what I'm worth. And so even though I can still own the IP, or even if I do a buyout, they're still not going to give me what I'm worth if I'm not part of the union, because I'm going to be seen. Writers are already seen as less than. That's why it takes them to shut everything down to get
no,
something
I
done.
totally agree. But here's what
So,
I'm saying. Like in your case, but this is me as a business person talking, Michael.
mhm.
In your case, and this is when I said to you, what you need to do is put in a percentage and get gross. And you get a percentage of the production. Hey, it's independent. They can, and what the person has to understand, I'll say this, but our contracts are our contracts. But if I make $1 million, TK still gets paid, and she gets paid again and again and again. So what? If I would want to make millions, like I maybe the problem is greed, and maybe the concept that you have learned a level of greed, that the power of ownership, if you can feed your family and other families, how powerful you are. But what
Yes,
movement are you in your community if you're not willing to do that? I
yes,
don't mind. Listen, so what if TK says, "Hey, I'll write it for 5,000 or 10,000, but I also want 1% royalties or 2% royalties."
hmm
Well, if I make $200 million, TK makes more money, she gets paid. But then again, I was blessed to make $200 million.
and that's
I
what's happening.
I look at it in my brain. The Hollywood system is a business of businessmen of built of greed. They've been that way. If you study film, when the movie industry came, it has been a factory that pumped out movie after movie after movie after the same stuff. It wasn't any different. This is when people go, "Oh, you're not creative enough," and all these superhero movies. I laugh. Like, nah, okay, you remember when Westerns used to come out as movies all the time? A Western's a Western.
hmm
Oh, he has to save his wife and kid. How many Westerns can you go find about that? Hey, you can find Kung Fu movies in Japanese saying on the same thing. I'm bothered by people because they think that, oh, this was such an artsy thing at first. It didn't become that way until the 60s and 70s. It really didn't.
mm
It was a factory, like cars were being pumped out. You're not going to Ford and go, why is my car not have, why don't all cars have electric windows? People still got to roll them down. Why is that? Why do you build that model? What's the point in it? Hey, to get you to pay more money for stuff. You want
hmm
a la carte. Video games are going that way. Every industry is going that way because they're. Here's the other thing: we have to study business. We got to pay attention to it. Video games are a la carte. Right now, you can get some video games you'll pay for, and you still pay for stuff inside of the game. Some games you don't
Wow.
have to pay for, and you pay for stuff inside of the game. And if
Wow.
they found is you spend more money paying for the extras that may not mean anything or that boost your game level because we're competitive people. We want to go up to the next level. We want to feel
Right.
comfortable. And I'm guilty of it. We are all guilty. Some of us are guilty of it, some of us not. Everybody has their vice or something they're connected to. But that's what happens when people are losing money in various industries. They find a way to circumvent that. Any contract, anything. I like, I'm a teacher. I told people, why don't teachers become independent contractors and charge per kid per hour,
That
like babysitters?
woo.
You know how much I would get paid? Let's say I charge $20 an hour per kid per hour that I got to teach your kid. And I got 36 kids in a room. See, now we think differently because then people are like, oh, teachers ain't nothing but glorified babysitters. I used to hear that. No, they're not glorified babysitters.
Shh,
Their
not even
job is to
close.
educate your kid. But I try to educate my students for life because AI are replacing a lot of those smaller jobs that kids who don't get an education used to get. You won't necessarily need them because they don't have the skill set. I used to be like, every job is necessary. But if somebody can find a way to save money, if you can get a robotic lawnmower that will cut your grass, you don't hire nobody, you plug it, you charge it, it learns what's in the way and what's not. They're working on it, by the way, just to let you know. Just like they got a robotic vacuum cleaner. Now, if that robotic vacuum cleaner could grow legs and go upstairs and clean, people going to be really in trouble. So, and guess what? The guy who's trying to make quick money, they're going to develop it and sell it. Because here's what they're looking at. I now patent this. Every time somebody uses my patent, my materials, my concept in their project, I get a residual check. Because it's a capitalistic society. Capitalism will bite us in the butt. I've always said that. And it is. Because we're not looking at fair. We're not looking at win-win. And so tools are going to be created to create the gap because I don't want to spend much money. I don't want to argue with somebody. If I tell you I want this movie to be like this and you tell me, oh, no, and I say, I know it works. And you say, you know it works. And I say, you know what? You know what's going to save me from the argument? An AI doesn't argue with me. But an AI can't tell me emotions.
Right.
It can make up emotions. But cinematography, it'll study the greatest films, but who says that what that AI does applies there or works well? This is why, as a camera guy, you shoot multiple different scenes. You shoot the same scene from different angles or different lighting, or you play around with some stuff sometimes. And then you go, oh, that I like that much better. I thought this would work, but it's not working. Then when you watch it with your audience, you're like, yeah, that worked. AI can't tell you that. So there are tools to this, but I mean, at the end of the day, does the strike affect independent filmmakers? That's the question.
To me, it depends on the level that you wanting to be on. Because even if you make the content and put it on a service, if all you plan to go is Tubi and you don't want to take it to anywhere else other than Tubi, then it doesn't affect you. If Tubi is your goal and that is your ultimate goal, then it doesn't affect you. But if you plan to do anything other than Tubi or, and I don't know what other, any other streaming services that's not connected to any signatories, then no, it doesn't affect you. In my opinion, no.
And I had to apologize earlier. I realized I said streaming. It's subscription. It's SVOD, subscription video on
Subscription
demand.
based. Okay.
And then the HB is high budget. So high budget subscription video on demand. The film was Real Artists. It was not 2016. It was 2018. I felt like I saw it in 2016. I might have saw a different film in 2016 because there are two films talking about AI in the film industry, by the way. Well, shorts that I saw. But this one is, and here's the thing. In the near future, a young animator is offered what should be her dream job, but when she discovers the truth of the modern creative process, she must make a hard choice about her passion for film.
Mm.
The modern creative process in that film, it's a short film, 12 minutes, is AI, by the way. This is 2018.
Wow.
So 5 years ago, and AI has been being developed prior to, I mean, think about it. You have AI. You've had it. It's called Siri. It's called, what's Amazon's thing name? Well, Alexa. Those are AIs. They're learning as they talk to you. They're looking up information on the web and reading it back to you. And they're processing it. And they're learning your voice. They're learning what your behavior. Uber is using AI to figure out when to order a car for you based on your patterns. Film industry. Will people be making movies, or will studios circumvent and be like, yo, this is where AI might be the problem? Because a long time ago, when I was a little younger, I remember there was an argument of computer generated characters that could look like real people taking away jobs from actors. And when people make it hard, and this is now, this is why I say there's a two-for this, because I remember trying to make a film one time, and this guy who had never acted before, when I put out a casting call, his first question was, how much you gonna pay me? He ain't had a part. He didn't audition. He said, how much you gonna pay me? Can you act? I've never acted before. Well, then what you worry about money for first? I need to know if you could do what. But see, guess what? That's where the big guy does it for a different reason. The little guy goes, I'm so tired of dealing with people who are unprofessional. I'm just going to create my own film and use AI. And I'm going to design my own actor.
For $150.
Think about that, though. It might cost a little bit more than that, but I don't need to buy a camera. Maybe I do buy a camera. Maybe I do some photography. I can design the backdrop, the backgrounds in AI. I can design the characters in AI. I can do the animation in AI. I can record different voices and have a computer with AI change the voice, tone, texture, pitch, everything. I need it to sound like a little kid. I need it to sound like a girl. I need it to sound like, and then I got all my characters. And what do? I put together. I will not be shocked next year if you see a few short films made with AI in film festivals. Because you're going to see, you probably see them now on YouTube. I will not be shocked. But this is the thing. People are trying to keep their jobs. People are trying to, and so it's a hard place to be. You know, so what Darrell say? He said, actually, off-topic question. Any tips on directing actors with little experience? I have an actress in my show who doesn't have much experience, but a lot of potential. So I am the king of getting people with inexperience. And people like their characters. Honestly, talk to that person. Number one, tell them this is the time they get to be somebody else. Don't be yourself. My acting teacher said, acting is nothing but lying and convincing the world you're somebody you're not. Right? You got to become somebody different. So if you playing a doctor, you got to learn the doctor jargon. You got to convince people you're a doctor. If I'm not convinced you're a doctor, you're doing a horrible job. Wasn't there a guy who faked his own doctor certifications and practiced being a doctor and got away with it for a while until he got caught.
I'm pretty sure.
You
There's
know,
been probably a few of them.
so talk to him, tell him what you need. I remember I was working with one of my actors. Now she had acted somewhat a couple times, but couldn't cry at the time. And I said, when you think about this moment, take your place to the worst moment in your life. That's where your character's at. That same moment. She thought about somebody she lost, and then the tears just started flowing. And then after that, any scene I needed her crying, she could take herself to that place. So they have to think in their head. I know some people have actors write their bio for their character and read their biography, so they can understand it. Because if, let's say my character has ADHD and the other character is bipolar or whatever, they're not going to respond to the same scenario or situation the exact same way because of those things, those differences. And it could be something subtle, or it could be something like, hey, it's a white guy and a black guy. They're not going to respond to that same. If you call a white guy boy, he's not responding the same way a black man would to boy. And so you have to think about those things, right? That impacts the character. Who the character is impacts them. So when you're dealing with an actor with potential, help them understand, and help them be free. Like, don't hold back. And then once they don't hold back, if they're not giving you now you can reel them in a little bit. You be like, all right, you gave me a little too much here. Tone it down just a little bit and tell them what toning it down looks like, or show it to them too. But still let them be them. Let them breathe. I hope that helps.
And also what I learned from Tommy Ford, when we hosted him at the Denton Black Film Festival, and we had the an acting class, and he talked about, don't act, like pull it out of you, like pull it out, like you have it in there. You have laughing in there, you have crying in there, you have so many emotions already in you that you've had in the course of your life. Go back and find that, instead of just trying to make something up when you've already experienced these emotions in the past. And so he did a whole class on just pulling stuff out, and boy, it was really, really good. But yeah, tell them they already have it in them. You don't have to fake crying. You don't have to fake laughing. You've actually cried before. You've actually laughed before. Like, go back and get
Right.
that. So that's my two
Find that
cents
in
on
you.
that.
It is in you. The force is with you. If you didn't know, May the 4th be with you. I
Yeah,
enjoyed that.
somebody my aunt texted me that. May the fourth be with you. I was like, oh God.
But no, this was good. Like, one of the things is you should know this stuff. And what I mean by that, we should be studying how something impacts us, because that's the business. Like, there's two
Mm-hmm.
sides of film. There's a creative side, but there's the business side. And sometimes what I find is some people, and it's like in any other industry, there's a creative aspect to it, there's a business aspect. Some people don't meld the two, or some
Mm-hmm.
people avoid, I want to be creative and I just want a paycheck for it. I want to be business, but I need to hire people who are creative, or get people around me that are creative. And if you're
Mm-hmm.
creative, I always believe creative people should learn business, because I don't know, like Prince said it. He said the record label ain't nothing but FedEx company delivering your package to the listener. They
Yep.
shouldn't own the contents of the package,
Yep.
because they didn't create it. And so to me, I think like that. Like, no, you don't own something I created unless I decide to sell it. If I decide to sell it, I want something of it. I'm not going to sit there. I done seen people sell something, get a little something, and somebody turn around and they made millions off of something. You don't get nothing from it again.
That happens so much. Ooh, have y'all seen the Tetris murders? That was close. I was on there playing a cop in the background, but it was a reenactment on the Discovery Channel, and it
Oh,
talked about the Tetris and the effect of Tetris and the guy who created it. Oh, it was so good. what you said, like,
Oh,
and
because
he
there's a
was
Russian
broke.
guy who made Tetris, or and the American guy went and got it from him for Nintendo.
Well, actually,
Um,
it was two Russian guys. You have to watch the story,
yeah,
and they were talking about who possibly killed him, who possibly murdered him and his family. Oh my
because they
God,
got a
y'all!
movie. The Tetris movie is on
Mm.
Apple,
Is it on
telling a
Apple? This
story
is on
about
the. I know
Tetris.
this is
Yeah,
on this
but you're
Discovery.
talking
This is
about a
actually the
documentary, like the murders. Yeah.
the Tetris murders. Oh my God, it's so good. I was so happy I was a part of that project. You know how you part of projects and you look and you be like, I don't know what this is gonna look like. So I ain't gonna say nothing. I was like, I was so honored to be part of that. I mean, it was so well done when they went back and talked to the detectives and stuff. Oh
Mm,
gosh, yeah, you guys have to check it out.
there you
Tetris
go.
Murders on Discovery.
And at the and here's the crazy thing: Discovery at towards the end of this month of May will be part of Max, which will no longer be HBO Max. It will just be Max,
Mm,
which will combine Discovery, HGTV, OWN,
mm-hmm.
Warner Brothers stuff, all their materials into one location.
Wow.
And you don't have to pay any more money than you're already paying. They're
Mm,
combining it. And that's again, how does that affect you? How does the Peacock? How does this strike? Because I'm gonna tell you, if you're an independent filmmaker, I'm not talking about scriptwriter, but if you are an independent scriptwriter, here's the thing: technically, you can't write for studios. That'll keep you out the guild, the Writers Guild. But you can write for independent productions that
mm-hmm.
aren't studio based. So that doesn't, and it doesn't affect you if you read what they said. Um, Independent movies and shows may be the way right now during the strike. So this may give independent producers a leg up. It could be an opportunity
Mm-hmm.
to break into the industry in that manner, because they're going to need content. Right now, if they stay on strike, let's say they stay on strike for a year, that means for a year, the stuff you're used to watching is not going to be produced. The movies you're used to going to see are not going to be made. See the
Yep.
problem? Now, they haven't finished negotiating. As a business, here's the other thing that could be an issue. So, okay, so we're having negotiating. Well, we're going to go ahead and let AI write these scripts because we haven't made a contract. We'd have no agreement. And then when they can figure out they can let AI make their movies, that now negotiations could be harder because now you go into the actors, the producers, everyone else.
Yep. Not what unless what they've already filmed. They'll film what they already have, and then. But I am for next week. I am going to look up. That's how I go into the writing during the strike.
I don't know. What do you mean by that, Tony? How do you go into the writing during the strike?
Oh,
Um,
you see, maybe she's talking about that's when she just goes into a writing season for herself
oh, okay, okay.
while the strike is going on. So next week I am going to come back. I'm going to look up this week about that 90-day thing I was telling you about, how I was told about um the directors. I don't know, Tone, I think you're part of the Producers Guild. So I don't know if there is a contract that they're waiting to fizzle out. Like I said, I heard a rumor about the DGA having a 90-day contract with different directors for studios, and how they're waiting to that fizzle out because so they continue the strike talks. But I'm going to do some research on that. So next week when we come back, have I'll do some research on that
Okay.
because I want to see.
So
So
there you
yeah.
guys have it. Something to think about. I mean, how does this impact you? That's leave stuff in the
Hmm.
comments. Tell us what you're thinking. How directly how this has impact you. And you know, again, for some people will see it as an opportunity. Others won't.
Hmm.
If you're independent, you create your own app. Like I think it's perfect if 50 Cent created his own app. Like I was telling Tiffany last night. He should have made, because he doesn't own power, that becomes the problem. But if he had designed his own app and owned power, I think people would have paid the $6 a month to watch his
Hmm.
power universe. Like he
Especially
would
at
have
the
been just
second
fine.
season after it was going.
Yeah. But he didn't own it. Like when you don't own your stuff, that's the thing. And I always say when you keep going to people for their own money, they're gonna have it, either they're gonna own it or they're gonna have a percentage of it. And you gotta decide what works for you.
Yep.
Or you got to figure out a way to generate the money yourself or take your own money. Sometimes you got to be willing to take the hit. If you take your own money, you're going to have the loss. And sometimes on the independent side, a lot of us take the loss because we do want to maintain our own stuff. Just how we are. All right. So we enjoyed you. TK, you got a 60-second Jill that you would like to share?
Just try to, because even though we feel as independents, the Writers Guild strike doesn't affect us as much, still stay on top of it, because it may affect you in ways that you don't know, or it may not affect you, but stay in the know.
There you go. Stay in the know.
know.
Education is so important on so many levels. We're suffering because of the lack of. We're suffering because of capitalism. So it is better to be aware of your going ons. If you have young people, have them watch the news and ask them, how do you think this affects us? And it'll get you thinking. Because as a teacher, I will tell you this. A lot of our students don't watch the news unless we tell them to, but they don't understand how what's going on around the world, outside of the world, and in our world that impacts us heavily, and what it will do for the future. So, and that'll help for your writing. Like that, this is a good time for you to go into your writing closet and write stories and come up with it, because it's going to get interesting, and go around and play around with AI to help you improve. Don't use AI strictly, just learn it, because you got to be aware of the tools. If you trying to build a house, but you ain't never picked up a hammer, how you going to do that? And I'm not saying AI is a hammer. I'm just saying it's a new tool. But if you don't know the basics, that new tool don't really mean anything either. Like, that's the other part. Like, so what, you learn AI, but you still got to learn the basics, because AI isn't perfect. That's why it's artificial intelligence, still learning. All right. But thank you for joining us this week today. Enjoy this wonderful Saturday. If it's bright outside, if it's sunny for you. Make sure you have a wonderful time. Thank you for joining here at the Black Filmmakers Lounge Saturday morning indie industry shop talk. I'm your host, Michael Melvin, my co-host, Tamira TK Henderson. We've been hanging out with you guys. We love y'all. We appreciate y'all. We thank you. Be strategic, intentional, and authentic.
Oh, wow, Yvonne. I see that. What happened to my camera? Wow, that's crazy.
I'm sorry, I'm going to post that real quick. Yvonne said one thing NBC covered the writers' picket line. It interviewed 3 black writers, and I bet there weren't more than 4 black writers there.
That's crazy. That's interesting. We have to talk about that, touch on that next week.
Yeah, they'll use us. All right, we love y'all. Be blessed. Enjoy your weekend. Like, subscribe, share. Definitely share. Let people know what we're about. And for the Black Filmmakers Lounge, we catch y'all later. And we out.
Yep, that's right, Yvonne. That's what I picked up. Okay. Bye.
Peace.
Like, subscribe, and share. Like, subscribe, and share.
We hope y'all enjoyed this show.
Share.